Okay, so I just want to make a video going over the Discovering the Distance Formula worksheet. So once you follow your steps and draw your picture, it should be about what it looks like if you follow everything correctly. You have your 2 lines, you have your 2 points. You did the Pythagorean theorem in step number 7 to find the length of the hypotenuse, so that was 13. So the work is here, and the work is also here. Okay, so then those are your answers. Now on the back is where people typically get lost. But if we want to find the distance between 2 values, you're just going to subtract. So xk, the x from the k point, x from the m point, that will give you the distance. Okay, same thing for number 9, just subtraction. So when we're putting it all together, Pythagorean theorem is a squared plus b squared equals c squared. If I want to solve for c in terms of these 2 letters, a and b, I would just take the square root. That cancels out this little 2 here. So I'm just left with c equals the square root of a squared plus b squared. Okay? So now if you take that equation and you plug in, sorry, let me scroll back up here. So this expression here was representing the distance between the x values of k and m. That is our xk. That is our horizontal distance. There we go. Right? That's from here to here. That would be the 12 if I was going to plug a number in. And then the subtraction here is the vertical distance between the 2 points, which was the 5. If I take those 2 expressions and I plug them in for A and for B, then what I get is the distance formula right here. Okay. Now instead of the K and the M, because that's just for this specific example, it's just x1 minus x2 squared. Here, I'll just write it out instead of saying it. Sorry to go sideways on you here. So that's the distance formula. Now if you look it up online, it might say like x2 minus x1 or something, which doesn't matter. So then this final question says, why does this formula work regardless of what order you subtract the points? And I said when you square a number, it will always become positive. I'm going to show you what I mean. So I'm going to use these points, and these points are just coming from what we started with. I'm going to plug them into the distance formula, and I'm going to do it both ways, okay? So this would be a good example to write down, even though we already have the answer, so that when you go to your worksheet, then you can do the distance formula with any 2 numbers. So it helps if you label your points, and then it's just plug it in. So the distance equals the square root of parentheses 8 minus negative 4 close parentheses squared. Watch your negatives. The formula is a minus, and we are, I think I just, did I plug that in wrong? Okay. Excuse me while I just figure out what I did wrong here. X's. Okay, I figured out my mistake. My apologies. This is y1. This is x2 and y2. Okay, so now that I've confused everybody, let me just restart here. x1 and y1, x2 and y2. So when I'm plugging in my formula, 8 minus a negative 4. Okay? All right. Figured out. And then y1 minus y2, so that's 2 minus a negative 3. Okay? Now, when you are doing these problems, you have to leave your answer as a radical. Okay? You cannot just plug this in and get a decimal. So I just keep working it out. This becomes 8 plus 4, right? 2 negatives make a positive. So this is 12 squared plus, again, this becomes a positive. 2 plus 3 is 5 squared. This is the square root of 144 plus 25, which is the square root of 169, which equals 13. Okay, which we knew we were going to get 13. But now I'm going to flip the order around and show you why it doesn't matter. And what I mean when I'm saying it doesn't matter is if you would have labeled this as x2, y2, and x1, y1, like, you would get the same thing, right? So that order doesn't matter. So let's plug it in. Let's reverse it. So we'll do negative 4 minus 8 squared plus negative 3 minus 2 squared. Okay? Flipped them around. So this is the square root of negative 12 squared and negative 5 squared. And here, right here in this step is the reason why it doesn't matter. Right? Because what we have looks very similar. One's negative, one's positive. But when you go in your calculator and you put in parentheses and you say negative 12 squared, you're just going to get 144 and you're going to get 25. Okay? I have a lot of kids, though, that go too fast and they mess this up. They'll just type in, I don't have my calculator up here, they'll just type in a negative 12 squared, and if you do that without parentheses, you get negative 144. Okay? Because your calculator is just following order of operations. It's important, it's imperative that you use parentheses. It will give you a positive number. Anytime you square a number, it will always become positive, because negative 12 times negative 12 is 144, just like 12 times 12 is 144. So then this will give us the same thing. So sorry for the confusion about the points at the beginning, but there's your example of distance formula. There's lots of things you have to watch when you're doing these problems. You got to watch your negatives, right? The formula, there's negatives in between the x's and the y's, but this is a plus. You have to remember to square. Just use parentheses. Take your time and don't rush. Your answer at the end should be in simplified radical form. Okay? All right, thanks for watching.